Hello, good day to you and welcome to my channel. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you would find it helpful because I've made it with so much love in my heart for everyone to benefit. Okay, right into it. I've noticed that a lot of candidates for literature and English do not seem to know the components of the paper. They just know that you have to write literature and English in WAEC, and they don't know how the marks, they arrive at whatever mark they get or whatever grade, whether a C down to an A or an F down to an A. And that's why I'm making this video for WAEC candidate. It also applies to NECO. Yeah, it most times applies to NECO. Difference is NECO's objective questions are 60 instead of 50, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, let's get into it. So literature in English comprises of three papers: paper 1, paper 2, and paper 3. And I'll be going right into it from paper 1. Paper 1 is the objective test, the one we call multiple choice, OBJ. There are 50 questions in total and it is awarded 50 marks. Now, question 1 to 20 is general knowledge of literature. In this part, you're tested on your knowledge of figures of speech, genres of literature, elements of drama, poetry, and prose, types of drama, types of poetry, features of the genres, and a diverse other, type of questions. There'll just be 20 of them carefully curated to test your knowledge. And then when you go to question 21, question 21 to 25 is unseen prose. What we mean by unseen prose are those passages they bring out from a bigger novel. They bring out a passage or two. Sometimes you would recognize them if you've read the novel. Sometimes you would not. But they bring out like a paragraph or two and they set questions on those paragraphs. They don't set questions on the whole book. You would always see where the question is called from at the bottom. They'll say called from Things Fall Apart, Chinua Achebe. So they are called unseen because they just want you to focus on that extract. 5 questions on the plots, probably on the setting. Most of the questions are inference questions, meaning the answers are not clearly stated. They could say, what makes you think so and so is scared? And she never said she was scared. But inference, you look out for certain adjectives, certain actions, okay? They test your knowledge of the setting. Can you deduce the setting based on the action taking place? Okay? They test you on questions on the characterization, how they were acting. Okay? Mr. Adamu sounds rude, playful, polite, obviously the diction. You understand? And the narrative technique, they test your narrative techniques, first person, second person. They test you on long and short sentences. Just 5 questions. If you read the passage well, you should be able to attempt them. And please, my advice to you is to start practicing past papers. If you can go as far as 2000, take your time, year 2000, and practice. Because most candidates, I've noticed even with students, I've thought question 1 to 20 is like a breeze. But when it comes to unseen prose, unseen poetry, for some reasons they don't seem to get the answers. And this is where comprehension skills comes into play. This is where when your knowledge of English language is, that is when they're teaching comprehension in English language, you don't joke with it. So please, and past papers help. You would see the pattern, you would see mistakes you've made, you would correct your mistakes. So same thing with unseen poetry. For unseen poetry, they will not give you just a part of a poem. Poems are naturally shorter, right? Condensed language. So they give you an entire poem. And they ask you questions on the structure, the form. Is it a sonnet? Is it an epitaph? An epic, a dirge, a ballad. They ask you on subject matter, themes, poetic devices. Beautiful questions. I've noticed statistically that students perform better in unseen poetry but than unseen prose. Then you go to 31 to 50, where is Shakespeare? You need to know the Shakespeare text for your set. If you're watching this video in 2025, it means And if you're going to be writing WAEC in 2026 down to 2030, if you're writing WAEC in 2026, 27, 28, 29, and 30, your Shakespeare text is Antonio and Cleopatra. Your Shakespeare text is Antonio and Cleopatra. If you're still reading Midsummer Night's Dream for WAEC and you're writing the exam in 2026 and 2030, you're using the wrong syllabus, okay? So that is the OBJ, paper 1. Whenever you see paper 1, OBJ. And you don't write paper 1 alone. Literature is written in 3 different days. So you don't write in 2 different days. Usually 1 week apart for WAEC. Always 1 week. If you write it this Thursday, the next Thursday will be the second part. You don't write it alone. So we go to paper 2. It's theory. This is where they test your ability to attempt essay questions. And in paper 2 is prose, and novels. The novels you're told to read. Novels like Wuthering Heights, Things Fall Apart, Second Class Citizen, Native Son, Invisible Man, To Kill a Mockingbird. These are novels written in chapters and paragraphs. In WAEC, you're given 4 of them. 2 of them are African, 2 of them are non-African. The 2 that are African are called so because they are written by African authors within the 50-something African countries, either 54 or 55 or so. So they are written by African authors and they are set in Africa in most cases, or outside Africa, but they are centered around African characters. So they give you 2 novels. Then non-African, written by non-African authors, foreign authors, any country. Most times you'd always get 1 text bordered on racism, 1 text that is bordered on the issue of racial discrimination in most cases. We can never overemphasize the importance of the Black man's story, of the African American story, even in your poetry. The former sets, that is those that just finished the 2025 syllabus, studied cage birds. The new sets are looking at Still I Rise, same poets. These are topical poems. Anyway, so you're giving these 4. They will give you 2 texts. So 4 in total, right? 4 texts. And you're expected to use your SS1 to 3 to study them. However, if you're someone that you have to rewrite, it is good to read. You have to read everything. If you're still in secondary school, make good use of the opportunity and read all of them. I always tell students who come into art class that art classes are not for the weak. For some reasons, it is believed that a student who is underperforming would thrive in art. And that's not true. If you're not a reader, you're not a writer, you can't thrive. Because CRS, government and literature, has to do a lot of writing, literature, lots of reading. You have to be vast. We don't do it formulas. You have to be creative and vast. If you're still struggling, you want to rely on summary, you're probably settling for credits because I just need a credit to get admission, which could be true for certain universities. But then, some universities are competitive. You want law, give us the reasons why we should give you law. 1, a high JAM score. 2, the grade in your WAEC. You can't be coming with a C literature, C government, and C CRK, and you want law. They would give you something befitting. They could give you theater art. They could give you English. They could give you languages. They could give you whatever. But competitive universities wouldn't give you that law because they feel you're quite weak. Your result shows you're weak. That is why, to give yourself an edge, you read. Now in the exam, 4 questions will be set. 8 questions will be set. 2 from each text, So the 2 African texts, 2 from each, 4 questions. The 2 non-African texts, 2 from each. There are 2 sections, section A and section B. In section A, you have to answer only 1. Meaning from the 2 African texts, that means African novels that they give you, they'll set 4 questions, 2 from each. Just choose 1. Choose the one you're most comfortable with. Same thing with non-African. So at the end of paper 2, you have answered only 2 essays and it's also 50 marks. Now, for those of you who feel you do not have time to do all the reading, time is not your friend right now, pick one of those texts and read it thoroughly. If it means you don't give yourself options, because the disadvantage of reading only one is that, what if they ask you a question on form? Comment on the use of dance and music. comment on the diction. You might be thinking they'll ask me of theme of discrimination or theme of suffering. What if you don't get those type of questions and you are relying on, I'll read only this book. So if you know your time, you can only afford to read one of each, meaning one African, one non-African, then do justice to it. No skimming, no scanning. Read it thoroughly. Give it your best shot. Give your WAEC your best shots. At the end of the day, you tell yourself, I tried. Even if no one pats your back, even if people are disappointed, you know you gave it your best. You can't satisfy the world. Okay? If time is against you, read one for each. If you check my videos, there's a video on literature syllabus 2026-2030. You will see the novels for African and non-African. Read them. Okay? They are large, but set a timetable. Tell yourself 15 pages a day. I can finish in 3 weeks. Even if it's To Kill a Mockingbird is about 300 and, set a timetable. You can finish in 3 to 1 month, no matter how slow you are if you start early. So that you can give yourself a fighting chance, okay? So that is paper 2. Now, in all cases, in WAEC, you would write paper 1 and paper 2 on one day, because it's 50 OBJ questions and just 2 essays. So they believe you can afford to do that. You understand? So you write them on one day. Then moving to paper 3, you write it on another day, because that one has to be 4 essays. And it's also important. You can see the marks, right? OBJ 50 marks. This one now, paper 2, 50 marks, because you're writing just 2 essays. That is 100. Be counting with me. Let's move on. Paper 3, theory, 100 marks, because you're writing 4 essays. I'm sure you're doing the maths already, since 2 questions from each text, obviously. So 12 questions are set. You might be wondering, why are they not 16? There are 4 sections, section A to D. Section A would be African drama. Drama are text, are plays. They are written in act and scenes. There's a dialogue, a name of a person and the dialogue. Text like Let Me Die Alone, Lion and the Jewel, Death and the King's Horseman. They are called dramas because they are written in acts and scenes, and they have dialogue and stage directions. I'm telling those who don't know what dramas are. Again, check that my video, watch it to know the 2 drama texts for this set. I think one is An Inspector Calls, right? The other one, I know Marriage of Anansiwa is African and Inspector Calls is non-African. So they are just like prose, 2 African plays, that means drama, 2 non-African plays, 4. Just like each section, African plays 4 questions, meaning 2 from each. Non-African plays 4 questions, 2 for each. That is 8, right? In each section, you have to answer 1. So give the 2 your best. As you mean, for African, they give you Lion and the Jewel and Let Me Die Alone. Like they did, this last set just wrote. Some students had wonderful options. Those that read both of them were even thinking, hey God, I had students who were set on answering on Lion and the Jewel. But man, they asked on the importance of dance and music. Then they asked of the traits CD brought out in Barak and Lacuna. They're like, I'm definitely not going near Lion and Jewel. And they went for the question about Lamboy, significance or whatever. Are you getting it? Can you see how they give themselves options? Because they read both. Again, the disadvantage of saying, I will read one now. If I read one African, one non-African play. I've tried. What if you can't attempt the question? Always give yourself a fighting chance. So that's 8, right? But the poems are 6. Like I said, check that syllabus. WAEC give you 12 poems in total. 6 African poems, meaning written by African poets. Poets that are from Africa. You understand? Sierra Leone, Angola, Nigeria, Ghana, and all that. Then 6 non-African poets that are from outside Africa, England, America, India, Asia, and all that. Okay? English. So, but what WAEC will not set on, like, give you 4 questions. It's only 2. So out of the 6 African, they will set on 2 random ones. For the poems, they are shorter, so you don't even have the luxury of picking, because they won't set on all. Assuming they'll set 6 questions, 1 from each, and say pick one. No, they only set 2. Out of the 6 poems, only 2. So you have to make sure you study all. Non-African too, 2. So how many questions do you have in total? 8 plus 4, 12. So are you seeing how you're going to be writing 4 essays? 1 African play. You pick one out of the 4 questions. one non-African play, you pick one out of the 4 questions, one African poetry, one non-African poetry. Okay, so 4 essays. You can see why they cannot write everything at the same day, on the same day. Imagine having to write 2 prose essays, 4 drama and poetry essays, that is 6 and 50 OBG. Oh my God, guys, you'll be faint in the hall. Most definitely. Are you getting my point? So that is why they are written on 2 different days, and they are called paper 1, paper 2, and paper 3. Paper 3 is written on its own. It's 2 hours 30 minutes for 4 essays. Okay, I'll be making another video on how to pass essay questions in literature, WAEC. Okay, I've done that, but a more streamlined video, how to pass literature exam in paper 3, how to pass paper 3, drama and poetry. I'll be making a special videos, because the thing with drama and poetry, it's so important, because you don't even have the luxury of space. You just get 6 pages. I don't know, those of you that have written WAEC before and you're reciting 6 pages, and then you have to learn how to align your thoughts before the exam hall, so that you don't start scrambling and start saying, I don't have space. They don't give extra paper. You don't even want them to give you extra paper, because you know how these things are moved now. It could get missing. Are you with me? Are you following? Are you following me? Okay, so I think that's about that. Now, this is 100 marks. So if you were following me from the beginning, let's go back. 50 plus 50 plus 100, we get 200. Each essay is 25 marks, so whatever you get over 200 divided by 2 is your grade. So if you get, assuming you ended up with a 150 over 200, that is still an A. You see, it's actually not so complex. WAEC marking scheme is tough, but you could achieve it. However, the thing is, again, you need to really work on your essay writing skills. That's why most of the videos I'll be making will centered on that, because based on the mark scheme, it means if you don't do well in OBJ, you can still make a strong B if you wrote fantastic essays. But the thing why I tell my students not to joke with OBJ is just 25%, right? However, what if your essays were not so fantastic? You ended up with a 40 something, or even a 50 over 75 in total, which is very strong, because WAEC mark scheme is quite tough. What then? It is now the OBJ that would help you. Imagine having a 50 over 50 or a 49 over 50. That is like 25 marks waiting for you. All you need to enter an A is another 50 marks. Give those essays your best. Before 75, you've gotten an A1. 74, a B2. B2 is still very strong. B2, nothing spoil. Of course, you would get that course, especially if the university is competitive. So 75 of your marks from your essays. Please watch all my videos on how to attempt essays. Very important. They are coming from years of experience. I teach the WAEC and the checkpoints, the IGCSE curriculum. Watch everything, please. If you have a special request, you can type it in the comment section. But I think this is basically the component of literature exam, literature and English exam, paper 1, paper 2, and paper 3. You can see paper 2, paper 1, paper 3, over 200. Okay, so please give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. Subscribe also. If you subscribe, it's a good one. It reaches a wider audience and more students will benefit, and I would be grateful, obviously. Anyway, until next time, students, bye.